NATO leaders are in Romania to drum up support for Ukraine as Russian forces continue to destroy its energy infrastructure.
Chinese health authorities have vowed to boost vaccination of the elderly after widespread and rare protests broke out against COVID restrictions.
NATO leaders have gathered in Romania to shore up urgent support for Ukraine as Moscow continues to attack the country's energy infrastructure. The alliance's chief said the group's top priority was to bolster Ukraine's air defenses to prevent further destruction.
Good afternoon. The message from all allies will be that we need to do more, both to help Ukraine repair the destroyed critical infrastructure, including power and gas grid, but also to, of course, address the attacks itself by providing more air defense systems. This is partly providing more air defense weapons systems, but also, of course, to ensuring that those systems that we have already provided, and many of them are actually modern NATO standard air defense system, including NASAMS and others, that they are functioning.
The U.S. is also expected to announce a substantial aid package to Kyiv that would help maintain Ukraine's energy network.
It is the first day of the meeting in Bucharest of the foreign ministers of the NATO member states. The talks focus on the most pressing issues of the military bloc in the very vicinity of a war of aggression unprecedented in Europe in the last 8 decades. Today, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Romania and promised to strengthen NATO's armed presence from the Black Sea to the Baltic Sea. This means more troops and more military equipment in Romania and all the countries on the eastern flank. The head of American diplomacy emphasized the Black Sea area is an essential component of NATO. The foreign ministers of Finland and Sweden participate in the Bucharest meeting as states invited to join the organization. From the position of NATO partners, the heads of diplomacy from Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia and Bosnia and Herzegovina also participate. In 2008, in Bucharest, NATO welcomed Georgia's and Ukraine's aspirations for membership but didn't include them in a membership action plan. The Alliance's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg chairs the meeting of ministers from NATO countries. We are sending an important message. NATO is here, it is vigilant and it is ready to defend every inch of its territory, emphasized Mr. Stoltenberg. The Secretary General promised that NATO would help Ukraine rebuild its electricity and gas infrastructure and supply air defense systems to Kiev. Cristian Citre, Euronews Romania.
China has pledged to accelerate its vaccination of elderly people as the government battles a surge in COVID cases. This comes after rare and unprecedented protests broke out against President Xi Jinping and his strict zero COVID policy. Now authorities have pledged to rectify certain measures.
We suggest that people who have no contraindications and meet the vaccine eligibility criteria, especially the elderly, take the COVID-19 vaccines as soon as possible, and those who are eligible should take a booster dose soon.
Across the country, a tense calm reigns on the streets after security forces appear to have stamped out demonstrations across at least 18 cities. But in Hong Kong, a small group of people gathered to express their support for the demonstrators on the mainland. Although authorities appear to ease local-level restrictions, Shanghai imposed a new round of closures on some businesses on Tuesday.
The European Commission will officially give its opinion on Wednesday on the question of EU funding for Hungary, withheld over rule of law concerns. €5.5 billion in pandemic recovery grants and €7.5 billion from cohesion funds hang in the balance. Money that Hungary badly needs as it struggles with an inflation rate of over 20%. And according to macroeconomic analyst Attilia Weinhardt, the sooner Budapest gets the funds, the better.
This dispute casts a shadow over the Hungarian economy and public finances. As soon as this dispute is settled, it will suddenly give room for movement on the budget.
The Hungarian government has made 17 commitments to ensure that EU funds are spent properly and has offered further steps to strengthen the independence of the judiciary. According to the head of Transparency International's Hungarian office, the concessions made by the Orbán government should neither be underestimated nor overestimated.
A mi álláspontunk szerint ez az elmúlt 12 év egyetlen.
In our opinion, this is the only meaningful anti-corruption package of the last 12 years, but obviously one cannot expect it to completely dismantle Orbán's system of national cooperation overnight.
A másikra megrendíti a nemzeti együttműködés rendszerét.
Most analysts expect that the Hungarian recovery plan will be approved in principle. But this payment will be made conditional on the actual implementation of the measures called milestones. The 7.7 billion blocked from the cohesion funds will be unblocked depending on the same. Government sources told Euronews the Hungarian government expects to unblock the funds by the second half of 2023.
Bosnia's capital, Sarajevo, has earned the dubious title of the most polluted city in the world, according to figures from air quality technology firm IQ Air. On Sunday, the level of pollution in the city was over 17 times higher than the World Health Organization's annual guideline. Authorities instructed residents to wear masks outdoors, use air purifiers in homes, and close windows. This Sarajevo official said that in a few days they will be meeting with big European cities that are facing similar problems and to discuss a short-term action plan for situations of excessive air pollution. But Sarajevo isn't the only Bosnian city to suffer from poor air quality. Air pollution is also a problem in Zenica and Tuzla. And in 2020, the WHO stated Bosnia and Herzegovina was one of the most polluted countries in Europe, with air quality among the worst in the world. Deadly air pollution accounts for the large number of premature deaths, which stands at around 79.8 per 100,000 inhabitants.
A cry for women's rights. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside of the home of ruling party leader on Monday, decrying the Conservative government's near-total ban on abortion. Earlier this month, Jarosław Kaczynski blamed the country's low birth rate on women drinking too much alcohol. For these demonstrators, the comment was the final straw.
We seem to have no strength. We seem to have no power. We seem to not be able to overcome them. And that's how it seemed to those girls in 1918, when women in Poland won the right to vote. They only had umbrellas, just like we do now. Well, they won, it will be the same with us.
The government also ended state funding for in vitro fertilization last year. Protester Zolanta Ziewińska says these laws have crippled female body autonomy.
We have voting rights, but it is not enough to go to the polls. We want to have the right to decide our role in the family and society. If a woman wants to have children, go ahead. She should be helped to do so and not restricted by in vitro procedures.
Other demonstrators are now calling for Kaczynski to step down. But the 73-year-old has argued that despite his policies, he has always supported full equality for women.
After traveling through missiles, border crossings, and thousands of kilometers, 70 works by Ukrainian artists are finally on display in Madrid, marking the first time that a collection of modern art this size has ever left Ukraine.
Putin wants not only to take the territory of Ukraine, but also to control its narrative. And culture and art has a very, very important role in this.
The people behind the journey have drawn parallels between their own experience and a similar effort in Spain in the 1930s, when paintings were sent abroad during the Spanish Civil War.
We can draw a parallel between what happened in the Prado in the 1930s and what we have done with the help of these Ukrainian museums, who've decided that the best option for their artworks is to take them out of the country.
The trip from Ukraine to Spain was so dangerous that no company was willing to insure the paintings. But luckily they were unharmed and will now remain on display at Spain's Thyssen-Bornemisza National Museum until April next year.